Hello everyone, and welcome back to the Tent of Abraham. I'm Tamir Kreisman from Jerusalem, Israel. We continue with Pirkei de Rabbi Eliezer. Now before we begin, as always, first we're going to say Tehillim for God. Hallelujah Adonai kol goim shabechu kol haomim ki gavar alenu chasdo ve'emet Adonai leolam hallelujah. This class, as all the classes and all the Torah study that we do and everything that it produces, this goes for the safety and security of our tzaddikim soldiers who are fighting over there to defend us, to bring back the hostages, and also for the safety and the security and the safe return of the hostages, as well as all the safety and security of all the children of Israel, here and abroad. And if you are abroad, what are you doing there? Anyway, it's going down, baby. Before we get into this, we just have to discuss really quick where we're at and what's coming. So, where we're at is we just exited Hanukkah into the month of Tevet. Now, there is a certain amount of protection in Hanukkah, obviously, right? It's a time of great favor for Israel, a time that a great light comes to the world. And in fact, it did, as it does every year, specifically this year more than most. Why? Because no one is going to argue with you today that we are currently in the time of the Geulah, the redemption. And we can see through war the redemption comes. And guess where we're at right now? That's one. Two, there's also a certain amount of protection, obviously, when it comes to Shabbat. So there's like a 20 to 30 minute period from the time that the sun sets until the time that the stars come out. It's called Zman Shkia setting of the sun, to Tzeta Kochavim, the time that you can see the stars. That's an in-between time. When the sun sets, it is no longer that day, but there's like a lull almost in between until the next day officially. Within that 30 minutes, within those 30 minutes, I'm standing on the balcony over there after the sun set, standing on my balcony, and a siren goes off and they fired a few rockets towards Jerusalem. In other words, it was after Hanukkah was officially over and yet before Shabbat officially came in. And if, again, everything is a sign nowadays. It's like, okay, this isn't over. And we know that the month of Tevet is a notoriously dark month. But why is it a dark month for Israel? Not because of the darkness per se. Rather, the month of Tevet is so light and so bright that what happens if you look directly into the sun? You'll lose your sight. So many rhymes here. Anyway, so this is what's essentially happening because our vessel, our unity is not prepared. When this light comes in, it causes chaos, right? It cannot be contained. We are that vessel for the light. Now leading in also to the 10th of Tevet, again, this month is notoriously bad or difficult rather, for Israel, Judah in particular. So that's when the outer walls were breached. In any case, so if something difficult can happen, it's usually on these days. So, and this is on Friday. Friday's a fast day, right? From before sunup until Shabbat comes in. Of course, you're not allowed to fast on Shabbat, not by any means. Only if Yom Kippur happens to fall on Shabbat, because it's not a sad fast, it's a happy fast. You are not allowed to be sad on Shabbat. In any case, we are looking to see what is coming from the north on that day, on Friday. We hope for nothing, obviously, but if things have to happen, it's better that they happen so we can get through it as opposed to it being dragged out. We don't want to go another year, 2, 3, 4, 5 without any resolution. People will not survive as long as this war of attrition keeps going. So, and the other thing to keep us safe for this month is to avoid any kind of conflict. Any kind of conflict, because right now we've paid such a heavy price on the side of judgments. Not only what happened over the last on Simchat Torah, that they, again, with the death toll over there, and like we said, again, we don't even know all the numbers, or we know most of the numbers, but they're not giving you a lot of this information. But so far, right now, soldiers are dropping every day. Every morning, I check 3, 4, 5 more soldiers gone. You see these young smiles. We need a lot of prayer for the soldiers. We need prayer for the hostages, but the worst thing that we can do is what we are doing. I say we because how can I divorce myself from Israel, regardless of how crazy they are? In any case, so here's the situation. As long as these protests keep taking place, because now, just like there were protests before for 9 months leading up to Yom Kippur, which is what caused this, because it completely split the people, right? Now we're having, again, protests to bring back the hostages. But the thing is, they're saying, okay, we want to bring back the hostages. How are we going to do that? Stop the war, give these murdering, raping terrorists everything that they want to bring back the hostages, which will cause more murder, rape, pillaging, mutilation, and so on and so forth. In other words, it's a never-ending cycle, as we can see, right? Okay, so that's one aspect. The other aspect is that instead of protesting, if we actually focused on prayer and turning to God, they would actually be released, right? This whole thing would be done. As long as there's tshuva, the whole thing is done. So, the same characters who are instigating this division amongst the people for 9 months are the same players, the same character actors who are causing this division right now. All these protests, what are you protesting? In the meantime, another group is starting to protest, and these are the mothers, not the families of those the people that are currently in captivity, but the mothers of the soldiers, because right now the number of the soldiers is almost at the number of the people, the soldiers that have given their lives, is coming close to the number of the people kidnapped. So where does that stop? So the other protests that are just beginning to arise are the mothers of the soldiers who are currently in Gaza saying, why are you not flattening the whole place? The reason they're not flattening is maybe there are hostages in there, you see? But if they flatten it, no soldiers are going to lose their lives. Going in between where there's conflict, absolutely people are dying from both ends. This is what it is, and this is what the Erev Rav in Israel are causing. They're causing conflict, and at the worst possible time. We have to pray against this. So we have to love one another, and again, we've discussed this in our group. You don't need to like someone to love them, okay? Sometimes we don't like a member of our own family, right? But we love them. We would do anything for them. We would come to defend them. We would give our lives for them. No question. But sometimes you just don't like them, right? I don't like every person. A lot of you know that. But boy, for my brethren, what would I not do? Even though I don't like them, even though we disagree. Would you not fight for them? Of course you would. That's what we're talking about. No conflict on this time, because we have paid such a high price with blood and continue to do so. So whenever we see a conflict, we stay away, because you do not give the Sitra Achra, the side of darkness, any ammunition against us, because right now we could be redeemed. This is absolutely where they're heading. Like we said, in the last-ditch effort is going to try and cause any kind of chaos between us to confuse us, to get us to turn against each other, so you could say to God, look at them. They don't deserve any kind of salvation, now do they? Right? It's on us, as it always has been. And so we have to be so careful. First, on the positive commands, to be kind to one another, gemilut chasadim, absolutely. And then also on the negative commands, do not hate one another, right? Be kind, because this is what is going to be. And any time a conflict arises, know for a fact that this is a test. Please pass this test. And it comes from anywhere and everywhere, and it could come all the time. No ego. We must not have an ego. Not ever, but especially not now. And this is for the sake of Am Yisrael, okay? So let's really focus on that. And any small things, any small positive things that we could do, this is what we need to focus on. Anyway, that's my spiel, signs of the times. We hope that we will, how shall we say, get through this 10th of Tevet, which is on Friday, without anything opening up. But if so, God only knows. Anyway, let's get into this. This is chapter 41. 41a from Pirkei de Rabbi Eliezer, and this is the sixth descent, the people who chose. The sixth descent of God is when he descended upon Mount Sinai, as said in Exodus 19:20. the Lord descended upon Mount Sinai to the peak of the mountain, and the Lord summoned Moses to the peak of the mountain, and Moses ascended. On the 6th days of Sivan was God, on the sixth day of Sivan was God revealed over Israel in Mount Sinai, as the mountain was ripped from its place. Now this is a very interesting understanding, because where do we get that the mountain was actually ripped from its place? Let's take a look at the language of this account from Deuteronomy 4:1. And you approached and stood at the foot of the mountain, and the mountain burned with fire up to the midst of the heavens, with darkness and cloud and opaque darkness. Now, let me read this in Hebrew and then give you the literal translation, which the English messes up, obviously. Vatikravun, look at my hand gestures. Vatikravun vata'amdu tachat hahar, v'ahar bo'er ba'esh, ad lev hashamayim choshech anan v'arafel. And you approached and you stood underneath the mountain, and the mountain was burning with fire until the heart of the heavens, darkness, cloud, and fog. That is the correct translation. And then you see in Exodus 19:17, it says, Moses brought the people out toward God from the camp, and they stood at the bottom of the mountain. Here it says in Exodus, betachtit, which means the bottom of, but tachat, where it says in Deuteronomy, it means beneath, underneath. And then in the next verse, in verse 18, in Exodus 19:18, it gives us a hint that the mountain didn't just move, but it quaked violently. And the entire Mount Sinai smoked because the Lord had descended upon it in fire, and its smoke ascended like the smoke of the kiln, and the entire mountain quaked violently. Vayechared kol ha'ar meod. The word vayechared comes from charada, which means dread, terror, or like a terrible, terrible shaking, not just an earthquake, as in the whole mountain actually did lift up. In other words, something unnatural was taking place, so much more than just your average everyday earthquake, or even average extreme earthquake. So, the understanding is, according to the Radal, that the mountain did indeed lift from its place and ascended as the heavens bent, so that the top of the mountain reached the bottom of the heavens. But we read that it reached the heart of the heavens, libat hashamayim, meaning it went so much higher than what we actually think. The mountain went into the heavens, and yeah, Moses was on it. After which, that's very interesting. So many things are coming to mind right now. And again, okay. After which it descended again and returns to its place. Another interesting midrash regarding this is that since the mountain was ripped out of the ground and hovering above all of Israel, God then gave them a choice. Either accept everything that I am saying here and now, the curses along with the blessings, or I drop this here mountain upon all of you and start over with the one and only one of you who is not beneath the mountain, and that was Moses. To which Israel replied, under duress, mind you, na'aseh v'nishma, we will do and we will hear. So again, and there were two accounts for this, and time again, we see that God was affirming the covenant with Israel over the course of the 40 years. And then again, we see it in the book of Esther. And then again, when the second temple was complete, Ezra opened the book. And then again, they established the covenant out of sheer will and desire and yearning for God, not out of duress or anything. This duress was meant to get all the heir of Rav from them. In other words, it has to be hard. Right? Just like now, the final redemption has to be hard. Israel's going to get to the point where we're about to get crushed by a mountain. Only those who stand there and choose God, they're the ones that are going to be Israel. Everybody else is like, I'm out of here. I don't need this, right? As it was, so it will be. And in the Mechilta of Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai, he refers to this event as hinted in the Song of Songs 2:14. My dove, in the clefts of the rock, in the coverture of the steps, Yonati bechagavei asela beseter hamadrega, Haraini et maraich, hashmiini et kolech. Show me your appearance, let me hear your voice, for your voice is pleasant and your appearance is comely. God really wanted the unification with Israel, as we've been learning that it's the very reason for creation. So again, Song of Songs refers to this. Now there are literally dozens and dozens examples of hints that back this up throughout the Tanakh, but I'm hoping you get the idea right now. So let's move on. On the 6th day of Sivan, God was revealed over Israel on Mount Sinai, as the mountain was ripped from its place. And the heavens opened up. And the head, or the top of the mountain, Rosh Rosh is head, but Rosh also means like the pinnacle, the top. I'm just giving you a literal translation over here. Of the mountain entered the heavens, and the dark fog or cloud was covering the mountain. The whole mountain, not just the top of the mountain. The Holy One, blessed be He, was sitting on His throne. Look at me, was sitting on His throne, and His feet were standing in the fog. Okay, for those of you who we know already. And His feet were standing in the fog, as said in 2 Samuel 22:10, and He bent the heavens, and He came down, and thick darkness was under His feet, right? This is a description of what was. Now, don't you worry now, we are definitely going to unpack this. And the heavens opened up. This is the same language as used in Ezekiel 1:1. Now it came to pass in the 13th year, in the 4th month of the 5th day of the month, that I was sitting in the midst of the exile by the river Nal Kebar. The heavens opened up, and I saw visions of God. Niftechu hashamayim v'ar'eh mar'ot Elohim. Specifically Elohim, not Yud-Kei Vav-Kei. Okay. Now, here's something if you don't know this already. The visions that Ezekiel saw, which you can read about in chapter 1, Ezekiel chapter 1, was a fraction of the Mount Sinai experience that all of Israel beheld. In other words, he actually beheld what happened there. It wasn't shown to him here's what happened. It was shown to him in the present. Again, in the spirit world, there is no past, present, and future. There is no time and space. There is just one singularity. And so he witnessed that, but through so many different filters. There's a whole book all about Melkavot Yechezkel, and this is something that most people say that you should not learn, because when people think that God actually has a chair that He sits in and has hands and feet and eyes, that's what already leads to idolatry. Our sages say, a handmaiden saw more wondrous things than Yechezkel ben Buzi. A handmaiden over there on Mount Sinai beheld greater depths of what the prophet Ezekiel actually saw. Because again, he saw like a bootlegged, 9 times bootlegged version of what actually took place through various different filters, through a perfect alignment, and he got a glimpse of what was going on. That's the whole thing. They were there and they saw, they beheld. Different levels here, people. All right? Just so you have an idea of the magnitude, not everyone can learn Ezekiel chapter 1 or any of Ezekiel, but especially chapter 1, because it's too deep and it discusses concepts that most will not be able to even begin to comprehend. That's why every last description in the chapter, and we actually did discuss this, right? What he saw. Everything is presented as likened to, meaning it wasn't what it was. It was as in, likened to, the likeness of. It was the best wording he could use, sort of, kind of, to describe what it was that he was seeing, using words like likeness of or the appearance of, because it was not that. But people take it literally because these people are not of us. And the head, or the top of the mountain, entered the heavens. As we said, the heavens and the earth were actually touching at this point. Just as we read from the words of David that God bent the heavens from 2 Samuel, and then from Deuteronomy how the mountain itself was lifted. And a dark cloud was covering the mountain. The entire mountain was completely covered with dark fog. You couldn't actually see any rocks or anything. It was just foggy mountain. This is the plain text in Exodus 24. And Moses went up to the mountain, and the cloud covered the mountain. It's very simple, right? And the glory of the Lord rested on Mount Sinai, and the cloud covered it for 6 days. And he called to Moses on the seventh day from the seventh day, and from within the cloud. So in other words, 6 days it was there, seventh day, Moses, we got to talk, let's go. And also right after the Ten Commandments, we were given in Exodus 20:18. The people remained far off, but Moses drew near to the opaque darkness, where it says ha'arafel. Arafel is fog. Where Elohim was, it says where God was, but specifically it says in Hebrew, Ashel Sham Elohim. There's a difference between Yud Kei Vav Kei, the name of mercy, and Elohim, the name of judgment. All right? That's why there's no difference if it's in English. Everything is everything. That's how you get God speaking to himself. No, different elements of God in different places, be it heaven on earth, be it mercy to judgments, are having communications. And it is all the same part. It's difficult for people to realize this, or to even understand this. But if you learn Torah, you will understand this. And these next two verses against the stupidity of other false religions, the Lord said to Moses, "So shall you say to the children of Israel." This is after the Ten Commandments, yeah? "You have seen that from the heavens I have spoken with them." What comes next? "You shall not make images of anything that is with me. Gods of silver or gold you shall not make for yourselves." It's right there. Like it cannot be any more clear than this is, right? This is so out of place, yet of course God knew what was coming. Rabbi Tarfon said, "The Holy One, blessed be he, shone from Mount Seir and revealed himself to the sons of Esav, as said in Deuteronomy 33. He said, the Lord came from Sinai and shone forth from Seir to them." I'll read the whole verse and then we'll just break this down. "He appeared from Mount Paran and came with some of the holy myriads. From his right hand was a fiery law for them." Okay, so here we're focusing on Esav. The Lord came from Sinai and shone forth from Seir to them. And Seir is referring to the sons of Esav, as said in Genesis 36, 8 and 9. So Esav dwelt in Mount Seir, that is Edom, right? And these are the generations of Esav, the progenitor of Edom on Mount Seir. So he was Avi Edom, the father of Edom on Mount Seir. That's where they dwelt. Okay, so obviously speaking to Esav here. That is to show that God does not play favorites. The reason he chose Israel is because Israel chose him. The Holy One, blessed be he, said to them, "Will you receive the Torah?" They said, "Well, what's written in it?" He said to them, "You shall not commit murder." They said to God, "Depart from us. For we cannot forsake the blessing which Isaac blessed Esav, our father, when he told him, 'You shall live by your sword,' as said in Genesis 27:40. Why did God start and pretty much finish with that command? Because he knew it would end with it, right? It's all or nothing, baby. You don't get to pick and choose what is comfortable for you from the law of God. Esav is Edom, as in Adom, red, as in blood, as in the entire substance, is the shedding of blood. That is what Esav is all about. And if you cannot overcome your natural inclination, wherever you are, whoever you are, the Torah is not for you. That's how simple this is. If you want the Torah and you want to be part of Israel, you let all of yourself go and you overcome everything and anything that you think that you are. Even if you think you're right, you're wrong. That's how this works. From here, then, God returned and revealed himself to the sons of Ishmael. As said in the verse, he appeared from Mount Paran, in the continuation of the verse. He asked them, "Will you receive the Torah?" They said, "What's written in it?" God said, "You shall not steal." Now, this explanation that they give is quite puzzling, and the explanation to this explanation is amazing. Okay, so here's what they say. They said, "We cannot leave that which our forefathers had done when they kidnapped Joseph and took him down to Egypt," as said in Genesis 40:15. Ki gunavti me'eretz ha'ivrim, for I was stolen from the land of the Hebrews. Okay. Immediately, questions should arise, right? First of all, whose forefathers? This is Ishmael, the son of Abraham. Here, we're talking about what, right? Since when does Ishmael consider the sons of Jacob, i.e. Israel, to be their forefathers? This is an obvious question. Now look at the questions our commentator Velo Od Ela is asking. Why did Ishmael not answer like Edom regarding their own blessing, as God said through his angel in Genesis 16:12? And he will be a wild beast of a man. His hand will be upon all, and everyone's hand upon him, and before all his brothers he will dwell. This is still coming from the angel of the Lord, meaning it's coming directly from God. Why didn't he invoke that? Now, I am asking you, the viewer, this question. What does this have to do with "you shall not steal" and the savage behavior of Ishmael? Okay? We're going to answer this question, but I'm asking you. So start thinking. Velo Od Ela continues. If for some reason Ishmael wished to invoke Israel as their forefathers, why then did Esav not use the same example of bloodshed that was done by Shimon and Levi, who each took their swords instead of their own blessing to live by a sword? Right? They went and they committed murder. Right? And lastly, why would Ishmael invoke the sons of Israel, which ultimately led them down to Egypt to become slaves themselves? You understand the questions? Okay, let's look for some answers over here. First of all, as we had mentioned time and again, the brothers' sin, right, was not selling Joseph, as they originally planned to kill him, because their reasons were valid, like we said, and that's not what they were punished for. And the proof is in Genesis 42:21, this last week's Parsha. It's in the simple text. When they were standing before Joseph, when they didn't know that it was him, right? They spoke in Hebrew. They didn't know that he understood. When they thought that no one else can understand them, and that it's in those personal, private moments when no one usually speaks the truth, when one usually does speak the truth. When they don't think that anybody else is listening, right? It was just among them. What did they say? And they said to one another, "Indeed, we are guilty for our brother," for Joseph, "that we witnessed the distress of his soul when he begged us," or his nephesh rather, "and we did not listen. That is why this trouble has come upon us," right? They didn't say we are guilty of kidnapping him, we are guilty of selling him. That wasn't the sin. It's right there. Okay, people almost always get this wrong. Remember, it was Joseph who broke the Lashon Hara rule, speaking evil of his brothers to his father without so much as an investigation, creating a rift between them. Look at what a rift causes in our people. Joseph brought his removal from his family upon himself. So what was their sin? Like we said, their sin was not showing compassion to Joseph or to anyone in that case. When they threw him in a pit, right? Let's say they want to hold him captive, no problem. Lower him into the pit. But what did they do? While he was screaming, they went and they broke bread and were drinking wine. That's what happened. So let's say he was there. Okay, of course, he's screaming. You're placed in a pit. Help me. No, you're guilty. But don't start having a feast while you are listening to him scream. Go far away where you can't even hear him do it. So it was not so much what they did, but in fact, it wasn't what they did. It was how they did it. This is unbecoming, right? To the sons of Jacob. So that's ugly behavior, very unbecoming of a son of Jacob, to which they all did tremendous amounts of tshuva for. In fact, since that day, that was the last time they drank alcohol, until, again, this last week's Parsha, when Joseph poured wine for them. And they're like, well, I mean, if we have to. But they were clean, they were sober, they did tshuva, they mended their ways, they mended their midot. It wasn't that they sinned according to the Torah. They went against the laws of morality. They should have known better, as we all should. So, still, a rectification needed to be done in the future with the 10 martyrs from the Second Temple period, right? Okay, so we know about the 10 martyrs. We actually discussed this. So now there's 12 sons, excluding who? Who are the 10 martyrs for what? 10 tribes what? You're probably thinking Joseph and Benjamin, but actually it's Reuben and Benjamin. Okay, Reuben wasn't there as he was plotting to rescue Joseph and return him to his father. And Benjamin obviously wasn't there, so he was innocent. So why did the fragment of the soul of Joseph have to be reincarnated into one of the 10 martyrs? Because Joseph never forgave his brothers. We gave a whole teaching on this, right? Okay, right now we're already veering off, but I just want to say again, nowhere will you find in the text that Joseph said, I forgive you. He said, don't worry, don't be angry at yourselves. I'll take care of you, you and your children's. You're safe here. Everything's good. Everything's peaches and cream. But guess what? He did not say, I forgive you. Nowhere. Because he did not say that, he was counted amongst the 10 martyrs. And again, because he was the one that actually perpetrated evil against his brethren by speaking Lashon Hara of them. He was the one that actually sinned against the Torah that got him down there to begin with. He had to become part of the 10 martyrs as well. No one gets off clean unless you are. All right, so to our question, why did Ishmael consider himself among Jacob and not Esav, right? And Esav did not do it. Well, Esav hated Jacob. We know this. I mean, he hated him. Wow. This thing runs deep, huh? This we know. And we're talking about not the nation and the nation. We're talking about the character Esav hated his brother Jacob. Ishmael, Jacob's uncle, did not hate him like that. He had no reason to, right? In fact, we know that Ishmael, the son of Abraham, did tshuva before he died, meaning he recognized that Isaac was the son that was promised, and it was he who would inherit the covenant of Abraham with God. This we see, and when Abraham was buried, he was buried by his sons Isaac and Ishmael. Even though Ishmael was born before Isaac, Ishmael gave Isaac the kavod, the honor. I recognize that you are technically the firstborn son of this man, right? In that aspect, in the aspect of the blessing. So Ishmael did tshuva, but that doesn't mean that his descendants did, as we will see. Now here's a hint. This is the answer to the question when Ishmael asked God, what was written in the Torah? Why did God say, you shall not steal? Because the negative command of stealing doesn't apply to theft of property. That is called gezel, gzela, which is robbery. And that is in Leviticus 19:13. You shall not oppress your fellow, you shall not rob. Lo ta'asok et re'echa velo tigzol. Ligzol is robbery. The hired worker's wage shall not remain with you overnight until morning. This is all part of robbery. You are either taking something from someone or withholding something that is due to someone. And only 2 verses earlier we see, you shall not steal. Lo tignevu. You shall not deny falsely. You shall not lie one man to his fellow. Robbing is property. Stealing is explained clearly right after the 10 Commandments in Exodus 21:16. Vegonev ish umecharo, and whoever kidnaps a man, gonev, ganav, lo tignov, you shall not steal. Whoever kidnaps a man, if you steal a man and sell him, that is lo tignov, and he is found in his possession, shall surely be put to death. While the original slave traders I'm talking about the original slave traders in the world, way back when, they were the Africans, as they sold even their own members of their own tribes. They sold the members of their own tribes. But since the rise of Islam, the Muslims have by far surpassed them to become the longest running, till this very day, and largest slave traders. Again, till this very day. This is Ishmael. To this day, they are doing it. Case in point, the stuff we got to deal with right now. Kidnapping, you shall not steal, 7 Noahide laws. They have no future. But what? Thou shalt not steal, it doesn't apply to them? Of course it does, right? The 7 Noahide laws apply to everyone. Do you have any idea the kind of retribution that is coming to them? You not only kidnap, meaning steal, but murder, rape, pillage, torture. A wild beast of a man indeed. His hand will be upon all, and everyone's hand upon him. Is the word of God not truth? Is it not emet? And just like a beast, is it not in its based nature to be the most dangerous right before it's about to be put down when it is cornered? What you think in the heavenlies, the guardian angel of Esav and Edom, you think they don't know that their time has come? That's why they're causing all this ruckus. That's why what is going on right now, will develop and become increasingly difficult because their time is almost up. Let's continue. After God visited Edom and Ishmael, asking them the specific questions, right? From here, he continued and sent the call throughout the rest of the nations. And he said to them, will you receive the Torah? And they said, what's written in it? Now you have to understand something. When we say that God went to the nations, he went to their angels, right? Because the angel kind of speaks for the nation. That's where the heart of the nation will go. It's connected to all the nations. They already know what their own people are going to say. They are inseparable from them. So God's not going to go to everyone. You want the Torah? No, you're going to their collective because they are. So he went to the rest of the nations, the other 70 nations, and said, you want the Torah? And they said, what's in it? And God said, you shall not have other gods before me. Lo yeh lecha Elohim acharei al panai. They then said, we cannot leave the religion of our forefathers. Who were the forefathers of the 70 nations? Obviously not Edom and not Ishmael. Our forefathers, we cannot live the religion of our forefathers who worshipped idols. And so we do not desire the Torah. Give it to your people, as said in Psalms 29:11. The Lord shall grant strength to his people. The Lord shall bless his people with peace. Adonai oz la'amo yiten, Adonai yevarech et amo b'shalom. Why is this verse the verse that is brought to us? What is the true meaning of peace but lack of conflict? You see, all the nations had a chance to receive the Torah, including Ishmael and Esav. Not only did they reject it, but they told God, go give it to them, give it to your people. And further midrashim, the nations share that they actually share their thoughts. We see what their thoughts are, including Esav and Ishmael, right? They believe that the people who do not murder will be murdered, and a nation who does not steal, rape, rob, pillage, and lie would easily be destroyed, which is why they were happy that we were the ones who give it to them. Yeah, no, we're good. Give it to them. Give it to them. They said this. That's why they said, give it to Israel, because they knew if they live according to the Torah, they will not be able to survive in this world. Practically speaking, they were 100% correct. However, see, they saw the Torah as a punishment, as a restriction, as a handicap, a limitation of sorts, especially for one who wishes to not only survive, but to thrive in this world. But what we know is that this world has a time limit. And that time, kids, it's almost up. We see this, right? Everybody sees this. I'm not telling anybody anything new. As our sages say, it's like an hourglass, and we have but a few grains of sand left. If we live according to the Torah, we don't live in this world. We live above this world. We've already given classes on that. And we also see this from the Midrashim in Daniel. When God took Abraham out, he took him above the stars. He was looking down through the zodiac at all the nations. That's what these mazalot are. Mazalot comes from lazil, to drip down, meaning that is their influencing power, if you will, to the nations. And they're all under something else. But Abraham is under none of them. He is above them. But if Abraham or his descendants, meaning Israel, live like the rest of the nations, it is within their right to absolutely crush us because we are the lowest of the low. But if we live according to the Torah, we are above everything and nothing can touch us. Not here, not there, nowhere, as we have seen. So again, we are really at the time. We are approaching the end of the end. You don't need to be a prophet or a genius to see all this. All you need are eyes. It's funny, and we discussed this a few weeks ago in the class, where the grandson or the son of who was it? It was Gad, who was deaf and he was mute, so he had no ego. He couldn't hear any of the rhetoric. He just saw what was going on, and he just did what he needed to do. I told my sister this when she was going to high school. Right? Guys, high school kids, they'll say anything, right? Anything, because, teenagers and hormones and whatnot. So I told her, I said, don't listen to what a guy tells you. See what he does. See how a person behaves. Same goes for that, same goes for this in the world today. Don't look at what your leaders are telling you, at what the media is telling you. Look for yourself what is actually happening. See for yourself with your own eyes. Shut your ears, shut your mouth. No one wants to hear about your opinion. And look what is going on, right? During the whole COVID time, I didn't see any people dying in the streets. I saw nobody dying in the streets. There was no pandemic. You understand this, right? It's so stupid. Where are we seeing people dying right now, but they're not showing you? Guess what? The magic cure. It does something to one's heart. We told you, we warned you, okay, that they're covering up. Do not listen to them. Use your eyes and see practically what is going on. And you do not have to be a genius to figure this out. And those whose eyes are supposedly open but don't see this, they're not where you are. Okay? So don't even worry about that. God is doing this. So it is the 70 nations led by Esav and Ishmael who rejected God's Torah. And it was not only by their blessing, but by their desire that Israel receive it. And so we have. You see, that means that there is peace. That means that there is no conflict. And that means in the verse when we read, the Lord shall grant strength to his people, Oz, that's the Torah, and the Lord shall bless his people with peace, because everyone else said, yes, give it to the, yeah, you sure? Yeah, you want to sign? Give Israel the Torah. You got it. Okay. Once God was done with the nations, from there he returned and revealed to Israel, it said in Deuteronomy 33:2, and came with the holy myriads. So again, the verse is Deuteronomy 33:2. He said, the Lord came from Sinai and shone forth from Seir to them. That's Esav, and appeared from Paran. That is Ishmael, and ve mehal Paran ve'ata, and now you milvavot kodesh. In other words, in between there all the nations. These two lead the nations. Came with the holy myriads. From his right hand was a fiery law for them. Now, you might think that these are angels, because, holy myriads and whatnot. But this is not the case. We will get to the angels. There are angels. But who are you talking about over here? In Hebrew, it says, Ve'ata mirvavot kodesh. Mirvavot kodesh translates as holy myriads, is actually a number. Revava is 10,000. Okay? Revavot kodesh is tens of thousands of holies. Kodesh, not kedoshim, not holy ones, but holies rather. As that is the highest number to be counted in the Torah, right? What do we have? We have trillions, quadrillions, billions, quadrillions, whatever. In the Torah, that's the highest counting number. For instance, we know that 600,000 men from the ages 20 and up left Egypt, including women and children. Okay, not including women and children. So we were like around 2.4 million or something like that, around 2 plus. In modern day Hebrew, we would say for 600,000, it would be called shesh me'ot elef. Shesh is 6, me'ot is 100, elef is 1,000. 600,000. Plain and simple, right? But the way that this is said, that this count is being counted in the Torah is shishim ribo. Translate, shishim is 60 ribo, meaning 60 10,000s, which is 600,000, right? I understand for the sake of simplicity, this is how it's translated. But it's important to know that the 10,000 can be multiplied on and on and on to reach any number that is needed in the Torah. So the myriads are more than just 10,000, but revavot, tens of thousands. Who are they alluding to? We already know. Now that we have that, how do we know that this is Israel? As Pirkei Rabbi Eliezer says, there are no other revavot, tens of thousands, except for Israel, as said in the book of Numbers 10:36. Ubenucho yomar shuva Adonai revavot alfei Israel. And when it came to the rest, he would say, respond, O Lord, among the, here's the myriads, revavot, the myriads of thousands of Israel. Revavot, the tens of thousands, alfei, of thousands of Israel. Properly translated as the tens of thousands of Israel, referring to the 600,000, the fullness of Israel. Get it? Okay. Now, and with him thousands of twice 10,000s of grand chariots of holy angels. So here are the angels. Honestly, that's the best translation I can do, as it's also taken from Psalm 68:17. Rechev Elohim ribotaim alfei shinan, Adonai bam Sinai bekodesh. Okay. How's it translated? God's chariot is twice 10,000 times thousand. I'm just reading this straight off. God's chariot is twice 10,000 times thousands of angels. Psalm 68:17. Look it up yourself. The Lord was among them in Sinai in his holiness. Okay. Now, the Radal says these were two different groups of angels. The first were called Shinan, translated as thousands of twice 10,000. And the second group are referred to as grand chariots. And his right hand, okay, so that's plain and simple. That's what that means. And his right hand was grasping the Torah, says our text, as said in Deuteronomy 33:2. Now here's the ending part of that verse. From his right hand was a fiery law for them. Mimino esh dat lamo. Dat is religion. Fire, religion, lamo, for his people. We see fire and we see its location, all right? Fire, as we know, is judgment. However, since it is in the right hand, we know this is coming from the side of mercy, right? And like we learned, judgment is mercy concealed. Everything coming from God is mercy. Why? Because it comes from God. By default, it is mercy. So if we get something, oh, this is judgment. Yes, but what does judgment do? It refines you. In other words, would you rather not be? Or would you rather get corrected and, come correct and come back to the right side? Very simple. We learned this. From here, one can learn that the words of the Torah are like fiery coals. And this is from 2 Samuel 22:9, as well as Psalms 18:9. They are the one and the same. The Psalms is, you could also read it from there. Smoke went up his nostrils. God does not have nostrils. This is an allegory. And fire went out of his mouth. God does not have a mouth. This is also an allegory. Did devour. Coals flamed forth from him. Okay? Allah ashan ba'apo, esh mipiv tochal, gechalim ba'aru mimeno. Fiery coals, Torah. Okay. Word of God. You get it. This is actually David, Psalms 18, from within the story of 2 Samuel, like we said. We know that the Torah is the word of God from the mouth of God, and so it is likened to fiery flamed coals. Now, if you still might be associating this with aggression, please do not. The Torah is the greatest mercy and loving kindness that God could give any people. And we are the only people who did not question its contents, right? As the rest of the world asks, well, what's in it? More like, what's in it for me? While we did not ask what's in it, but we said when we will do and when we will hear. We didn't say what's in it, what we will do and we will hear. Then what's in it? But yes, because you said so. meaning consider it done because it comes from you. Of course we want it. What's written in it? Now listen to what our text says next. And it, the Torah, was given with great affection, as said in Song of Songs 2:6. Smolo tachat roshi, v'yamino techabkeni. His left hand was under my head, right? Torah with the right hand, fire, right hand. And his right hand would embrace me. Is that not affection, my love? You see? Okay. In the form, and how did it come? In great affection, in the form of an oath. As said in Isaiah 62:8. The Lord swore by his right hand and by the arm of his strength. Nishba Adonai b'yamino u'bizroa uzo. Adonai oz la'moiten. You see, it's the same language. God's oath is the very Torah that he gave us with his right hand from the side of mercy. Yes, there are judgments in the Torah, but it's all wrapped up in mercy. The fact that every other nation in the world rejected it, as well as said to give the Torah to Israel, solidifies that as a peaceful agreement. We don't want it. Wow. At the end of days, because we all know that we are already at the end of days, the prophecy that had already been given, the covenant that had already been struck, no takebacks, will absolutely come into fruition. Adonai oz la'moiten, Adonai yavarech et amo b'shalom. The Lord shall grant strength to his people. The Lord shall bless his people with peace. The reason God chose Israel is because Israel is the only nation who chose God. Unconditional, not I'll do some of the things. No, it's all or nothing. We are the chosen people because we are the people who chose. And that's our class for today. So like we said, the month of Tevet is upon us. It's filled with conflict and hardship for Judah. What did we say? We need peace in order for this thing to come. More trials will come to us this month, but it only means that we have opportunities to overcome them, right? That's what these trials are, overcoming them. It's not like, phew, I passed that. No, you made a correction over there. So as difficult as it is to say, we say humbly with love, we welcome these trials humbly because we know that everything we get, we can overcome. God never gives us anything that we do not have the power or the tools to overcome. And if we need help, ask him for help to overcome it, not to remove it from you. You brought this to me, that means I need this because it's coming from mercy. Help me overcome this. That is the way to go, okay? So we look at it as an opportunity. We have to look at the positive now in everything. Otherwise, we will just sink into the abyss. So be grateful for what you have. Recognize God in all things and don't let up, not for a minute, okay? This is that final stretch. It goes on for months, maybe a couple of years, but we're in it right now and we are seeing things rapidly progressing, okay? Just keep going, okay? So as always, I'm here for any questions or inquiries. That's what my email is for. If you have questions in the comment section, don't do that, okay? Just email me. The email is right beneath the video, all right? the10tofabraham@gmail.com. Just do that. And just one more thing. For some reason, there's still a lot of Christians, like, Jeebus Christians watching these videos. If you make stupid comments underneath, I'm just going to delete you and block you I'm not even engaging anymore. It's so dumb. Do it. I laugh. It gives me a good chuckle, but then no one else sees it. So it's a waste of your time as well. But anyway, do what you want. You do it anyway. So thank you all for joining me. Y'all have a wonderful rest of the week. Have a meaningful fast on Friday and have a Shabbat Shalom. God willing, I'll see y'all next week. Bye.